Hello, listeners. Welcome to a brand new third season of Mind Your Business podcast. My name is Mia Gomez.
My name is Carlos Mora, and we're the hosts for this podcast. We want to give a special shout out to CDG, Blackstone Launchpad, and Mike Loya Center for Innovation and Commerce, where we help UTEP current students and alumni to grow their business. Be your own boss.
In this episode, we have Mr. Garcia with us today, and we're going to be talking about his entrepreneurial journey and what it is for him to be the director of the Mike Loya Center for Innovation and Commerce. Mr. G, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, Mia and Carlos. Thank you for having me.
The honor is ours to have you here. We have been waiting the whole season to have you, but we thought that it was special if you were in the last episode of this season. And let me start with the first question. Where you're from? Where do you study? And if you can talk a little about your hobbies.
Certainly. Well, I'm Michael Garcia. I am the director of the Mike Loya Center for Innovation and Commerce. I'm also assistant professor of practice at UTEP's College of Business Administration. Now the Woody L. Hunt Business College of Business. So we're so glad for that. I'm from El Paso, and my family has actually been in El Paso for more than 100 years. So I grew up here. I went to public school here. I went to UTEP, so I'm a UTEP alum, a proud UTEP alum.
Go Miners.
Yeah, go Miners. I got my degree in electrical engineering with a computer option in 1983, and then went straight to work at White Sands Missile Range. And so although I'm a college professor today, what I really am is just an old retired rocket scientist.
How amazing is that? Who can say that?
So I spent the majority of my professional career at White Sands. I started as an intern, pulling cables and making coffee and drawing drawings with a pencil and a ruler, and retired as the director of range operations. And so it was a nice journey for me, and it involved a lot of corporate entrepreneurship, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm a homeboy from El Paso. I'm proud to be that. My whole family has gone to UTEP. So my father went to UTEP, graduated in 1951 in civil engineering. My wife in 1988, myself in 1983, my sister in 1986, her husband in 1980, I think, and all three of our kids went to UTEP. So we're very proud UTEP alums and supporters.
How amazing is that? Like a family of UTEP miners. And how was like your experience at the White Sands? Like how many years as well?
So I was at White Sands for 35 years. And it was a wonderful experience. We did a lot of amazing things. And I had a lot of opportunity there. That was the thing about that. And this is the choice that everyone will have to make regarding entrepreneurship or having a career, is how much of the risk of all of that do you want to bear, and how much of the risk of all of that do you want somebody else to bear? So I chose the little bit safer path of letting White Sands assume all that risk. But boy, I got a lot out of it. I got a lot of training, a lot of opportunity, and got to see a lot of things and do a lot of things that most people will never get to do. And I also got to go to grad school. So the Army, I wasn't in the Army, but I worked for the Army. And the Army sent me to grad school in 2004. And I got to go to the Naval Postgraduate School of Business and Public Policy, where I got a Master of Science in Program Management. And that's what qualified me to be here today. So it's nice to have gone through all of that and had all that wonderful experience, and then be able to come full circle back to my alma mater here at UTEP.
All right, that's amazing. And I do see that you have a guitar with you, and I don't want to move on before we know what you have in mind for us.
Carlos asked me about hobbies, and so I actually started you all as a musician. I was not going to be an engineer. I learned how to play the guitar when I was about 13 years old, so I've been playing for, 50 years. So I was going to be a musician, and my father pulled me aside one day and he said, "Mike, you're a good guitar player, but you're not good enough to make a living. And you can't just live here and, live in my house and drive my car and wear my clothes. You're going to have to make a living. So why don't you go to school? And I'll send you to school as long as you toe the line." And so he sent me to engineering school. It was the best thing that ever happened, right? Because it turned into a wonderful career. However, I kept the music as a source of inspiration. And I think it's really important, and maybe this is the this is getting into the tips for entrepreneurs, but I think it's important to have a source of inspiration that goes beyond your work, and it's something completely separate. And so I've kept music as that source of inspiration, and I keep this guitar just like this sitting right there in my office. And I play every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes, you know? So.
Bravo!
Yes.
How cool is that? The director of the Mike Loya Center for Innovation and Commerce playing some music for all of you.
And this is not an everyday thing, so
It's not an everyday
feel
thing.
special, you guys.
Yes.
So, you know, you all, so I leave it out. It's right there in my office. If I have even 5 minutes, right, I'll sit down and I'll play something. If I'm having an issue or problem, you know, I'll sit down, I'll play some songs, I'll think about it. If I'm upset, right, and before I send that harsh email, I'll play something for a second. Then I settle down and I usually decide, you know, it greatly improves my decision making. It greatly improves my ability to innovate. It greatly moderates any time when I'm having difficulty and settles me down, gives me peace. And I think everybody needs that. You know, no matter what you do, entrepreneurship, of course, is a very hard road, but almost any career field is going to be a hard road no matter how you look at it. And having something that, you know, gives you a quiet place, a safe space, some place where you can meditate and think about things, I think is really important. So that's what music and the guitar are for me.
That's amazing. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think it's really essential for everyone to have that source of like relaxation and inspiration.
Absolutely.
I think you do have to have that balance, because if not, you just go nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important. And I think, in fact, I think some people fail because they don't have that.
Yes, I
And
agree.
they wind up, you know, succumbing to these difficulties that are mostly inherent to almost anything you choose to do as a career.
So, Mr. G, I do want to ask you, what was your first entrepreneurial experience that you had?
So, y'all, again, I was a corporate entrepreneur. This is a person who decides to go and work for somebody, but then acts entrepreneurially inside of what we call the existing enterprise. So I joined the existing enterprise as part of the United States Civil Service, the U.S. government, working for the Army. And my first experience was one where, and this is really important, you all. So what happened was, I was an engineer, and there were many young engineers from UTEP and MSU that had just been hired, and we were basically all the same, and vying for, you know, not that many promotions and not that many good opportunities, right? So you had to do a couple of things. Number one, you had to be a subject matter expert. You had to make yourself needed. This is important, right? Whether you're selling products or services as an entrepreneur, or whether you are in the existing enterprise, you have to be needed, right, to get on the team. So I spent a lot of time gaining skills. I got 1,000 hours of technical training beyond my college degree, the equivalent of 3 more college degrees, all paid for by the government. Made me a subject matter expert in several areas. So we had a new system. We were the first organization in the Army to use modern video graphics to do display of test data. So we were in the weapons testing arena. So we were the first ones to use graphics to do this. We had a graphic system. It was the only one being made at the time. It was made by a company called Evans and Sutherland. And the guy who was going to be the system administrator for this system wound up unable to go to a long-term training. It was going to be like 3 weeks in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, in the middle of the winter. It's not a nice place to be. And he decided he couldn't go, or something kept him from going. And so they were looking for somebody to go. So I volunteered to go. even though I knew nothing about this. I knew nothing about it, but I thought, I can learn. So I went with the guy who was in charge of this project. It was a big project. It was the first one of its kind in the Army. So we went together and we kind of hit it off. We flew together, we drove together, we stayed in the same place. We were in this training for 3 weeks. On the plane back, the guy said, "You know what, Mike? You want to be the administrator for this?" I said, "Well, what about the other guy?" He says, "Well, too bad. You went to the training. We really work well together. Why don't you just do it?" So I did it. And it was a very difficult thing. It was something that everybody said could not be done. There was only one other company in the world using that equipment. That was Mercedes-Benz at the time to do product development. And nobody ever thought of using it for, defense or something related to defense. But we figured it out. We had to do a lot of things, including modifying the operating systems of these systems, modifying the operating systems of computers that were connected to those systems, doing a lot of programming in languages that nobody had ever seen before at White Sands. Everybody said we couldn't do it, we did it. And we were the first ones to do it in the Army. It was an amazing thing, and it was used for almost 15 years at White Sands.
How cool is that your first experience was of that kind and like that big to help like in a project like this matter? And
again, we weren't entrepreneurs selling products or selling services or something like that, but we were acting very entrepreneurial. We had many failures. It was very difficult. We put in lots and lots of extra hours. We did lots of travel to go to places to look at systems that were being used, that were similar. It was very difficult. But at the end of the day, we were kind of famous because we were the first ones to do it. That guy that I worked for, his name was Ken Pearson. And that's another very important thing. He was a powerful mentor for me and taught me everything I know about technology in the defense world, everything I know about managing technical people, everything I know about managing technical systems. So I learned a lot from him.
Do you think that prepared you to be the director of the Mike Loya Center?
Absolutely, it did. It prepared me to be someone who could operate at that level, whether it was at White Sands or the College of Business or the Mike Loya Center. And I followed him. So he got promoted, right? And I went into his position. And then eventually he retired and I took his position. And then, when the division chief retired, Mr. Pearson retired and was no longer at White Sands. But, when the division chief, the guy who was above him, retired, I went into that position. So mentorship is a critical component of this kind of thing. And Mr. Pearson didn't seek me out. I sought him out. It was one of the main reasons that I went on that first trip that kind of started the whole thing. Because I could see that he was one of those guys that was making things happen. And that if you want to be there where things are happening, you got to get with the people that are making things happen. But I offered him something in return. Right? I had a lot of skill as a subject matter expert. So I helped him and he helped me. And we became a team, then we went all the way to the top together.
So how amazing is that just by you taking initiative, you end up becoming the administrator of a place that you were just an intern. So how amazing is that just by taking initiative, your whole life changed in a different way?
Yeah, and it changed in a heartbeat. Well, just like it does when you're an entrepreneur, your life can change overnight. This person was not able to go on this trip. It was kind of an accident, right? Put me in a position to be able to do something. I made the decision to do it, even though I knew nothing about it. I went on this trip, and all of a sudden, you're on a different path. It's going to take you to a completely different place, right?
And he took you to the Mike Loya Center, and we're glad that he took you here. We're grateful for having you here.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad to be here. And I can tell you all that I love this job. I love working at the Mike Loya Center. It is one of the most rewarding things I have done in my professional life. And I can tell you why. Working at White Sands was very interesting, fascinating work. But it did carry somewhat of a moral burden. So at the end of the day, it was organized death and destruction that was our business. a very important business, essential to the defense of the United States, defense of our way of life. So somebody has to do it. But after 30 years, it's a moral burden there that I'm glad I don't bear anymore. This is a much more pure endeavor here, where it's very rewarding to work with people like yourselves, work with people like the folks that come into the Loya Center, work with students, and be able to give something back.
So now that you touched the Mike Loya Center, I want to ask you, how will you describe as a director the Mike Loya Center for Innovation and Commerce and the work that we do here for freshman students, for students that never heard of us, or staff, alumni?
Sure. So the Mike Loya Center has become the de facto entrepreneurship center for UTEP. So anyone who is interested in entrepreneurship, learning about entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur, working for a startup, starting their own business, improving the state of a business that they already have, this is the place to come. So we have the services, we have the training, we have the facilities to assist people with those kinds of things. And the most important thing is that we promote entrepreneurship as a viable career path, as viable as working for Google or whatever it is, right? It's a viable career path if people know enough about it. If people know enough about how to be good entrepreneurs, how to start their own businesses, how to run a business, how to weather the difficulty that's associated with being an entrepreneur. So that's what we're here for. And I hope people will just come and check it out. Even those people that just for a moment had a fleeting thought of entrepreneurship. If someone's thinking about corporate entrepreneurship and being entrepreneurial and innovative in the existing enterprise, even if they are going to go work for Google, they can still come here and learn valuable skills. So it's a tough job, I can tell you all. It's a big organization. So we have a $500,000 budget that I have to take care of. We have 12 graduate research fellows, 4 student assistants, 3 full-time professional employees that serve as managers. I think almost 2,000 square feet of space that we have to manage, and everything that goes along with that. And so, my expertise really is in operations management. And so we have a big operation here. We have 2 big advisory boards, and we deal with the president's office and the budget office and the provost office and the dean of engineering and the dean of business. So there's a lot to it. And then there's a huge external component. So we have a very strong brand outside of campus, out in the entrepreneurial and business community of El Paso and southern New Mexico and northern Mexico. And we do a lot of sponsorships. So we have sponsored the Dia de los Muertos pitch competition, the El Paso pitch competition, the Paso del Norte Foundation Gator Tank. A couple of our clients participated in the Aggie Shark Tank. So we have all of this external work that we do as well, that I'm also managing along with Fernanda and Carla. So it's a big job, but it's a very rewarding job. Again, one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in my professional life.
So you all heard that. To all of our listeners, come and check us out. Next semester, we're going to be having a lot of events. So stay tuned, check your UTEP emails or social media accounts. And yeah, we hope to see you all here. Following up with that question, Mr. G, I wanted to ask you, what has been your most challenging and rewarding experience as being the director of the Mike Loya Center?
So that's an interesting question, Mia, and I thought a lot about that. And I'll tell you what it is, you all. And it's something that I think entrepreneurs in particular have to be prepared for. So when I retired in January of 2015, I was at the top of the mountain, so to speak, and had been for some time. And I had 700 people working for a $125 million budget. It was a big responsibility with a lot of authority and all of that. And then from one day to the next, you go from being Mr. G, right, the director of range operations, to being just Michael G at home with my slippers on watching TV, right? And all of a sudden, everything associated with that, all the trappings of that, and this long climb to the top, and back down to being just a regular person. And then having to decide then what to do. What am I going to do now? And this involves something that I think people in my position are faced with often. People who are entrepreneurs that all of a sudden decide they want to do something different, they're faced with. You have to remake yourself. You have to take what you know, and what you can do, and what you like, and what you don't like, and then remake yourself into something different. So I wound up getting a little job at the community college. Because I thought about being a college professor or working at the university, but I didn't have any experience. So I took this little job. It's kind of a dinky job there at the community college, but I got some college level teaching experience. And then through that, I had an opportunity to come to UTEP, College of Business, and they set me up and put me right in front of the Dean of Business. And we kind of hit it off, and he offered me a job, and here I am. But going from, and I started at the very bottom of the barrel, right? Just as a lecturer there at the College of Business. But I had all of this other experience that the dean at the time, Dean Nachman, could see. I had operations management experience. So he gave me the Loya Center within about 3 or 4 months at the time I had started. But I had to remake myself into a completely different person, right? Using still the skills that I had built up over the years, but applying them to something completely different. And with very little real authority, right? Just by, partnering with people, and again, being a subject matter expert and trying to help people, and then doing what was needed, right? We spent a lot of time determining demand. Where was the demand? And then responding to that. And we were very responsive. We did a lot to help professors. We did a lot to help the dean. We did a lot to help our clients. And I kind of remade myself into something completely different.
That's amazing. And I think it's awesome that you mentioned that you rebranded basically yourself, because I honestly believe that there's a lot of people out there who just start, like, let's say, a career path in whatever career you can imagine. And after following that, they're just like scared to change. Maybe they find that they're not passionate about that, but another career. So I think that you are an inspiration to those people who want to like seek another options out there.
Well,
so
thank you. And it was scary. Let me tell you all, it was very scary. It was scary to retire and think about, because things happen with your income, and if you're identified by that work, it's a scary thing. And then to do something completely new, it's very scary. But at some point, you just got to jump off the cliff. Right?
I agree.
And trust yourself enough to know that you'll grab onto a branch or something on the way down.
I read the other day, I think it was on social media, that when you start feeling scared about something, that's the exact moment when you need to jump. That's the exact moment when you need to jump. And you're pretty much the proof of that. Yeah, if you wouldn't jump, you wouldn't be here right now. So
that's right.
And another question, and something that I'm curious about, is that you, as a leader of the Mike Loya Center, what are your goals for the next semester or the next year, for the 2023?
So let me say that my ultimate goal is to make what we're doing here part of the fabric of what the whole university is doing. We're kind of here working closely with the College of Business and the College of Engineering, but I think to make real progress, that has to be taken up a notch. I do think the university is moving in that direction. So the Mike Loya Center, Studio G, Blackstone Launchpad, what we're going to need to do is make sure that we line ourselves up to adapt to the larger plan for the university, so that we can be in a better place to reach out to everybody across the whole university, and maybe start tapping into higher level university resources. I do think there's plans being formed right now to do that at a real high level. We just need to be ready for that, and we need to be ready to adapt. So things are going to change, kind of no matter what we do. And we need to be ready to adapt to that. We've become experts at that, at adapting to changing budgets and changing issues with personnel and changing demand, whether it's internal demand or external demand. So we're good at that. And my goal is to just make sure that we keep lining ourselves up to be in line with what the university is going to want to do with entrepreneurship, and take us, you all, to be more like the Arrowhead Center, for example. Something that's operating at a higher level, kind of right next to the executive leadership of the university.
Interesting and excited for. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the 2023 year and to be part of the Mike Loya Center still. I love to work here. I love the projects and the programs and everything that we do to help students. If you are on this side of the table, I think all the fellows, all the professionals, and student assistants, we all love to work here. And please come to the Mike Loya Center if you want to become an entrepreneur. If you already started and you want to grow your business or become your own boss, this is the right place. This is the right people. You just need to come to this. Prospect Hall 320.
We have to see you guys here. So lastly, Mr. G, before closing your amazing episode, we wanted to ask you, what is one tip that you give to those student entrepreneurs that are out there?
So y'all, I got to tell you this, a couple of things. Number one, follow your dream, right? Everybody's got a dream. It is scary to want to do that, but follow your dream if you possibly can. Second thing, be very persistent, no matter what it is. Entrepreneurship, starting a career, it takes a lot of persistence, and it takes a long time. The last thing is patience. And so, I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. I have a nice family, a nice home, a nice career, but it took a long time. It took 40 years. 40 years of sustained, nonstop, really arduous effort is what was required. So if I could give you a tip, right, it would be patient, be persistent, follow your dream, gain skill, never stop learning. This whole thing was a lifelong learning process. I truly believe it's part of why I've been successful, is because I never stop learning. Never stop learning. I never give up on an opportunity to learn something new. So do those things you kind of can't help but be successful.
Thank you, Mr. G, for your time. We're truly honored to have you in the episode.
Well, you're very welcome. I was so glad to be here.
The Studio G, the Mike Loya Center for Innovation and Commerce, and the Blackstone Launchpad wants to thank all of you, our listeners, for your constant support.
Stay tuned for upcoming episodes, but never forget to always mind your business.